Your destiny isn't shaped in moments of chaos. It begins in silence, in the words you say to yourself when no one else is listening. Quiet, casual, automatic thoughts like, I always mess this up, I'm not ready, or it never works out for me. Your inner voice is the invisible author of your life. And if that voice is filled with doubt, fear, or criticism, your reality will mirror those commands. Florence Scovel Shinn taught words are seeds, and what you speak to yourself will grow into your future. She believed that miracles don't start with action. They start with belief. And belief is built one sentence at a time. In this video, you'll learn how to talk to yourself in a new way. A powerful way. The kind of way that in just 3 days can begin shifting the way you feel, the things you attract, and the path you're walking. Not through magic, but through conscious, deliberate, loving words spoken to the one person who needs them most, you. Florence Scovel Shinn believed that the most important conversation you'll ever have is the one you're having with yourself. To her, the inner dialogue wasn't background noise, it was the creative engine of your life. What you repeatedly tell yourself becomes the blueprint for your beliefs, decisions, and results. If you want to change your reality, she taught, you must first change the voice that narrates your experience. In her words, every word you speak is a seed sown, and sooner or later, you shall reap the fruit. The same applies to the thoughts you speak silently in your mind. Today, science echoes what Florence understood intuitively. Neuroscience confirms that the brain is plastic. It constantly rewires itself in response to repeated thoughts and emotional experiences. This is known as neuroplasticity. When you continually say things like, I can't handle this, or nothing ever works out for me, your brain literally strengthens those pathways. Over time, they become your default response, not just mentally, but physically and emotionally. The more often you think a thought, the more natural it feels, and the more real it becomes in your behavior and outcomes. Psychologists also speak of the self-fulfilling prophecy. When you expect failure, you act more hesitantly, notice only obstacles, and give up more quickly, thus fulfilling the very fear you began with. On the other hand, if your internal script includes statements like, I am guided, I trust the process, or I am calm and clear, your nervous system relaxes. You become more responsive and less reactive. You notice new possibilities. You make different choices. And slowly, your external world begins to shift because your internal world is no longer operating from fear. Florence taught that your words, and especially the ones you direct inward, are spiritual tools. They don't just describe your life. They give it form. When you say, I am supported, even when you feel alone, you begin to soften the belief that you're abandoned. When you say, I am in the right place, even in uncertainty, your body relaxes and your focus sharpens. You stop resisting life and start working with it. These small shifts matter. They interrupt the cycle of negativity and start a new cycle of trust, clarity, and confidence. Self-talk is not about pretending. It's about choosing. You can choose to speak from fear, or you can choose to speak from faith. Shinn believed that choosing faith, even in the silence of your own mind, opens the way for miracles to move. Because once you stop being your own enemy in thought, life stops fighting you back. And that's when everything starts to change. Florence Scovel Shinn didn't believe in vague positivity. Her affirmations were precise, grounded in spiritual law, and designed to neutralize fear while activating faith. She taught that words, when chosen consciously and spoken with belief, could dissolve resistance, unlock clarity, and attract divine order. Among her most powerful teachings are a handful of affirmations that speak directly to the soul. These phrases are not just soothing, they are transformative when used with sincerity. One of the most powerful is, I do not resist this situation. I put it in the hands of infinite love and wisdom. This affirmation is for moments of tension, when things feel stuck, overwhelming, or beyond your control. Florence taught that resistance blocks flow. The more you struggle mentally against what is, the more tangled the situation becomes. But when you release it, not in apathy but in trust, you invite higher intelligence to guide the outcome. You stop pushing and you start aligning. The phrase brings immediate calm, softens anxiety, and reminds your subconscious that you are supported by a greater wisdom. Another key affirmation is, I am fearless in letting money go out, knowing God is my immediate and endless supply. This is for anyone who feels fear around finances, spending, losing, or lacking. Shinn believed that money is energy, and fear constricts its flow. This phrase isn't about reckless spending, it's about trusting circulation. By affirming that your source is spiritual, not limited by conditions, you free yourself from scarcity thinking. And when you stop clinging in fear, you become receptive to receiving. Financial freedom starts in the mind, and this phrase helps dismantle the belief that giving means losing. The third affirmation is, I am a perfect idea in divine mind, and I am always in my right place. This is for moments of doubt, confusion, or identity struggle. Florence used this phrase to remind people that they were not lost or broken. She believed every individual was a perfect spiritual expression, guided by an intelligent design. This affirmation helps realign you with that truth. It replaces self-judgment with self-trust. It tells your subconscious that you are safe, purposeful, and exactly where you need to be to move forward. But Shinn was clear. These affirmations only work when they are more than mechanical phrases. You must feel them. You must enter the meaning behind the words. Say them slowly. Say them when you're alone. Say them as if you're speaking to the deepest part of yourself. Even if you don't fully believe the words at first, repeat them until something inside you softens, until your breath slows, until your chest opens. That's the signal that the words are landing, and that your energy is shifting. To make these affirmations part of your inner conversation, begin by identifying your most common fear thoughts. Notice what you say to yourself when things go wrong, then gently replace them. When fear rises, you say, I do not resist this. I trust infinite love and wisdom. When guilt over money appears, say, I am fearless in letting it go. I am always provided for. When you feel lost, say, I am in my right place. Over time, these phrases become your new internal script. They interrupt the old narrative and begin writing a new one rooted not in fear, but in faith. And that's when change begins. Practicing conscious self-talk for 3 days may seem simple, but it can trigger real and lasting change. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that what you repeatedly say to yourself becomes the environment in which your thoughts grow. And when that environment is charged with faith instead of fear, transformation begins. The 3-day practice isn't about perfection. It's about focus, intention, and consistency. You are creating a new energetic rhythm in your inner world. The goal is not to fix yourself, but to speak to yourself in a way that activates truth, strength, and possibility. Start in the morning, immediately after waking. Before checking your phone, before entering the day's demands, take 2 to 3 minutes to sit in stillness. Place your hand on your chest, take a deep breath, and say out loud one or more of the key affirmations. Choose what resonates with your current situation. If you're anxious, say, I do not resist this situation. I trust infinite love and wisdom. If you're facing financial fear, speak, I am fearless in letting money go out, knowing I am always supported. Repeat it slowly, with feeling, not rushing but letting the words soak in. Visualize them as light entering your system. Throughout the day, stay aware of your internal dialogue. If you catch yourself slipping into fear, scarcity, or harsh self-judgment, pause. Don't criticize yourself for it, simply replace the thought. Even silently, even once. These are the micro moments that matter most, when you choose faith over default reaction. Use simple phrases when you need grounding. I am safe, I am guided, or I am in my right place. If possible, pause for 30 seconds when you say it and feel your body respond. That's how the new programming begins. At night, right before sleep, repeat the same practice as in the morning. This is the moment when your subconscious is most open. Sit in stillness and gently declare a closing affirmation. I let go of this day. I rest in peace, trusting that all is working in divine order. This final repetition helps your nervous system reset, and it plants a seed overnight. Your dreams, your rest, and your waking state begin to align with your new inner script. You don't need to force emotion. You don't need to believe perfectly. What matters is presence. Just 3 days of intentional, emotionally engaged self-talk can begin to shift how you perceive yourself and the world. People often report that by the second day, their anxiety softens, their thoughts become clearer, and unexpected moments of peace or opportunity appear. It's not magic, it's focus. It's the power of repeated attention. And it's what Florence knew all along. When you start speaking to yourself with love and spiritual truth, the rest of your life begins to respond in kind. Florence Scovel Shinn understood something long before science could explain it. Words shape the world, especially the words you speak to yourself. In her books, she shared story after story of people who turned their lives around, not through external events, but through internal change. One woman, overwhelmed by fear and uncertainty, began using the phrase, "I do not resist this situation. I put it in the hands of infinite love and wisdom." At first, she simply repeated it out of desperation. But as she continued, her panic softened, her thinking calmed. Within days, the problem that had consumed her began to resolve, not through force, but through a quiet unfolding. As she changed the way she spoke to herself, the situation changed too. Another story Florence told was about a man who constantly feared financial loss. She gave him the affirmation, "I am fearless in letting money go out, knowing God is my immediate and endless supply." He began using it every morning, even though it felt unnatural at first. But over time, his relationship with money shifted. He stopped holding on to it in fear and began circulating it with trust. Unexpected opportunities followed. His income increased. But more importantly, so did his peace. He no longer lived under the weight of lack. Modern psychology supports these outcomes. Studies in cognitive behavioral therapy show that internal dialogue directly influences perception, behavior, and emotion. When people change their internal scripts, they begin to see themselves differently and act accordingly. Neuroscience explains it through neuroplasticity. The brain rewires itself in response to repeated thought. Positive affirmations, spoken with emotion, stimulate neural circuits associated with confidence, safety, and possibility. These changes aren't hypothetical, they're measurable. In addition, research into the mind-body connection shows that uplifting self-talk reduces stress hormones like cortisol and increases dopamine and serotonin, the chemicals linked to well-being and motivation. This is why even 3 days of focused, affirming self-talk can spark real change. The body relaxes. The brain becomes more solution-oriented. The nervous system shifts from survival mode to creativity. But perhaps the most profound change is spiritual. Something happens when a person stops telling themselves they are broken, alone, or behind, and begins saying, "I am worthy. I am not alone. I am exactly where I need to be." That shift is where miracles begin. Not because the world suddenly bends in your favor, but because you do. You begin to stand in a new energy. You make different choices. You expect better. You open to possibility. Florence Scovel Shinn didn't promise a life without challenges, but she gave people the tools to meet those challenges with new power. Through the words they spoke inwardly, they began to change their identity, and through that, their destiny. And the truth is, that power has always been within you too. It begins the moment you speak differently to yourself, and when you do, life begins to listen. Dear friends, if you liked this video, please like it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you soon.